Well, good evening, everyone. We're back to the Spirits book, and we are studying chapter 6 of book 2. Last week, we went through disappear now the name. Errant spirits. Yes, we talked about errant spirits, which are spirits or are spirits in the spiritual world between incarnation. So all spirits that are in the spiritual world between incarnations are errant spirits. Spirits that are no longer errant spirits are the perfect spirits that no longer need to reincarnate. Okay, and so this week we are going to move to transitional worlds. Philip, can you read for us?
Most assuredly. Transitional worlds, 234. Are there worlds that serve as layovers and resting places for errant spirits? Yes, there are worlds that are specially adapted to temporarily serve errant spirits. They are like campgrounds where spirits may live and rest briefly after being errant for extended periods of time, a state that is always somewhat tiresome. These places are intermediary stations between the worlds of other orders and are organized according to the nature of the spirits who enter them. These spirits find the conditions of rest there more or less enjoyable. A, can the spirits who live in these worlds leave them whenever they want? Yes, they can go wherever they may want to go. They are like birds of passage, stopping on an island to rest and regain strength to continue on their journey and reach their destination.
Okay, so here Kardec asks about other places in the universe. And if we remember that everything in the universe is populated by spirits, this is clear, and again, it makes sense to our reason that the universe wouldn't have wasted space or wasted bodies in being planets or suns or other stars. So this concept here, we have to first understand these are not incarnated spirits, okay? Worlds that serve as layover and resting places for errant spirits. Who are these errant spirits that need to go to transitional worlds? They are spirits that are no longer forced according to their law, the law of progress and their own evolution to stay attached to a specific world while they are going through reincarnation. So we talk about Earth and the population of incarnated and discarnated spirits being around something like 30 billion. So most of the spirits, they stay on Earth and around Earth between incarnations. Now, we have spirits that are always moving from one planet, one world to another. So let's say a spirit that is leaving Earth because they evolved faster than Earth, and they are moving to a more advanced planet. They can use these transitional worlds as a resting place, as a layover. That's what the spirits are telling us here. Also, let's say there's these colonies of inferior spirits, of imperfect spirits that are being transported from Earth to a less evolved world, maybe to a primitive world. They can be placed temporarily in these transitional worlds. Less likely, but possible also. So we have to understand the concept. All worlds are inhabited. Not all worlds are inhabited by incarnated spirits, okay? Including the stars, there are spirits also there. Because of course, spirits are not subject to the heat of the sun. There are no incarnated spirits on the sun as far as we know, as far as we understand. But there are spirits on the sun. So can the sun be considered a transitional world? Maybe. I don't know the answer. But according to the definition, yes. Now, they can live and go wherever they want. According to their level of evolution, yes. If there are spirits that are evolving, moving to a higher world, then they can live and come back until they go to the next incarnation. So it's something we don't hear very much, because we hear about the spiritual world around Earth, and there is enough information there and enough questions for us to ask about our lives in the spiritual world here around Earth, for us to focus too much on what's beyond, what type of activities, what type of existence these spirits have in these transitional worlds that is not around Earth. Okay. Questions here, comments?
I have a question.
Sure, Paco.
These transitional worlds, they are, for example, in my case, if I die here, I go to the spiritual realm, but before reincarnated back onto Earth. My point is this resting places for spirits who are moving from one planet to another, or even
yes.
from one planet from one dimension to another, not for people, not for spirits that are coming back into the same dimension. Okay.
No.
Okay.
If you are going to continue reincarnating on Earth, you stay in the spiritual world around Earth, in a colony, a no-solar colony type of colony of no-solar, on a transitional house of assistance, on a spiritual colony above one of the cities on Earth. These are, for instance, it doesn't say anything on the book, but let me give an example. Alcyone, on the book Renunciation, she's coming from a more evolved planet to incarnate on Earth. Can she go to one of these transitional worlds in her preparation for incarnating on Earth? Yes, it's possible. She doesn't necessarily have to go to an no-solar type of place. It's probably better for her if she stays in a transitional world until the moment she reincarnates, okay? So this is me guessing here, not something that I read on the book. It doesn't say anything on the book, Renunciation, okay? But it's an example of a spirit that can stay in a transitional world.
Okay, but then they're like rest areas. They're not really complete colonies of the world. Am I correct? It's not really. It's not really
yes.
a dimension. I call it a dimension of a planet, but it's not really that, because it's just like a rest area.
Yes, but again, if we think of no-solar, a spiritual colony built on the by the minds of the spirits that were inhabiting no-solar, you imagine that more evolved spirits will build even better, if we want to call spiritual colonies for lack of better word, in these planets, in these worlds. They will have some type of spiritual colony for them to be there. It's not that they are floating in the air, right? They are in a material place, let's say, not a physical place, which is what we have here on Earth, but everything is matter. So they will have a material place there where they live. That's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, your take on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I don't know, Elmo, if you have any different thoughts on that, any different ideas.
No, not at all. I think The answer is very clear.
Okay. Let's go, Philip.
235. Do spirits advance at all during their layovers in transitional worlds? Of course. These visits contribute to their advancement and help them obtain permission to enter a higher world until they reach the position of the elect.
Again, we are evolving when we are in the spiritual world. So of course, the spirits that are there, they are not idle. They are doing something. And at a certain level of our evolutionary path that we have the conditions of learning in the spiritual world, like we studied last week when we were discussing errant spirits. These spirits, they are, when they are living there, they are working on their progress. Again, the conclusion here, the spirits, the permission to enter a higher world until they reach the position of the elect, meaning a higher world, meaning continue to evolve to an incarnation on, as we mentioned before, on an incarnation in a more evolved world. So this can serve as a place of preparation for them to reach a higher, more evolved world to incarnate, until they reach the position of a perfect spirit and then no longer need to reincarnate. Okay. Okay, next.
236. Are the transitional worlds destined to be layovers for errant spirits forever? No, their position is only temporary. Are they also inhabited by physical beings? No, they are barren. The beings that inhabit them have no physical needs or wants. Sub-question B. Is this sterility permanent? And is there any special cause for it? No, their barrenness is only temporary. C. So these worlds have no natural wonders. The infinite splendor of creation is manifested by beauties that are no less splendid than the earthly miracles that you call natural wonders. D. Since the state of these worlds is only temporary, will Earth be one of that nature at some point in the future? It has already been in that state. E. When? During its formation. Everything in nature has a purpose. Nothing is useless. There is no void. Everything is inhabited. Life is everywhere. Therefore, during the long centuries that preceded human beings' existence on the earth, during the slow periods of transition confirmed by the earth's sedimentary layers, before the first organisms, upon that formless mass, there was no absence of life in that arid chaos in which the elements were mixed together. Beings who had neither human wants nor sensations found a refuge there. God made it so that the earth, even in its initial barren state, would be useful. Who would dare maintain that only one planet out of the countless planets of the universe, and the smallest of them at that, has the exclusive privilege of being inhabited? Why would the others exist? Would God have created them solely for our pleasure, so that people could gaze up at a starry sky? Such a thought is completely illogical and contradicts the wisdom of God's works. It becomes even more absurd when we think about the scores of planets and stars that we are unable to perceive. No one can deny the splendor of the idea that while worlds are still unfit for material life, they are populated with living beings adapted to its conditions, an idea that may possibly contain the solution to more than one problem.
You know, you read this comment by Kardec in 1857, and and still the majority of the population today do not think like that, right? They still think that Earth is the only inhabited planet in the universe. You know, and Kardec is asking 150 years ago, who dare maintain that the only one planet out of the countless planets of the universe, and the smallest of them at that, that's not true today, but one of the smallest has the exclusive privilege of being inhabited, you know, and it's against reason, right? It doesn't make any sense.
May I
If
ask?
you,
Yeah, may I ask what's the position of church in this matter?
I don't know. I really don't know. But let's go back to the beginning. So let's talk a little bit about because there are important concepts that the spirits give here. So these transitional worlds, their position is only temporary, and they are not inhabited by physical beings, meaning they are inhabited only by spirits. But it's not a permanent state. It's only temporary. And now that we have learned more about the origins of the planet Earth and how long planet Earth, remember the presentations by Julio on Genesis, right? In the beginning of Genesis, when he talks about the evolution of the universe and the creation of Earth. Earth spent billions of years in its formation, and it was inhabited by spirits as a transitional world in its formation, because of everything that when we study Earth in its formation, it is said that it was not possible to inhabit Earth because of all the changes in the atmosphere, in the changes of climate, changes of everything that happened on Earth. That's way before the dinosaurs, when the planet was being formed. But now the Spirit tells us that was already been in use at that time. During its formation, it was inhabited as a transitional world by spirits. So then Kardec comes with the long explanation about, again, reason. He would expand this on Genesis. There is one specific chapter that talks about the universe that goes beyond the explanation here. But it's very interesting that Kardec is bringing ideas here. Remember that at that time, they couldn't see much. They had no idea how, for instance, nowadays we have information on how the surface of Mars is, the surface of Venus. We know that Jupiter and Saturn are planets formed of gas. At that time, they didn't know. They didn't have any of this information. They didn't even know how the moon was, the surface of the moon. And Kardec already brings these ideas of life being everywhere, and of the concepts of all places inhabited according to the explanation of the spirits. I find this fascinating. Again, showing how much ahead of his time was Spiritism and its original concepts. Okay, this is it for Transitional World. So if anyone has any questions, comments here. Dani.
I'm sorry about the thumbs up, that was a mistake. So there are two things. So the Transitional Worlds means it's not only a place for spirits who are transitioning as well, but the worlds in themselves are changing, like the example of Earth. So it was also a place, it was not definite, like it was not formed yet. So it's both ways, right? For the spirits who are transitioning as well, from one stage to another, or from one world to another. So and the physical world in itself, right?
Yes,
So too.
correct.
And regarding this comment by Kardec that you said just now, I briefly Googled, entered NASA's website about these, questions. There are like, are there other places? Are there other things flying, or other, worlds that might be coming in and out of Earth? And there are records that they have seen things like flying that they can't identify necessarily, or there is some evidence, but still there is this narrow way of looking to, okay, we can't prove, we can touch, we can see, so we push it aside. Or they might be holding information that they don't want to release, and they know for sure that there are other like other worlds who are coming in and out, or as we know from the books we have, for example, the book we are reading now, And Life Goes On, they come and go from the places they are, and they call it a craft or a transportation that flies from that place to Earth. So I wonder if NASA recording could be this kind of transportation,
I don't know. What I can say is that the problem with the investigations that are made by scientists, in my opinion, is that they are looking for places and individuals or humans in other planets, and they want to replicate the conditions, the livable conditions that Earth has. So places that don't have the same livable conditions as Earth, they say it's impossible to have any inhabitants. And when we learn that the spiritual world is formed by different dimensions, and that spirits are around us, we cannot see them, how can we expect to find populations in other worlds if we keep looking for what we see here? We keep looking at trying to look at a mirror, right? Mm-hmm. It has to go beyond that, but we are not there yet. They have to go step by step, and eventually they will get there. Mm-hmm. But because science has already been progressing in a lot of beyond physical realities, right? And quantum physics is already a step forward into this. But I'm sure NASA knows more than they review. But I don't think that they are hiding anything as a conspiracy, like the conspiracy theorists like to say. I think it's more of what they think is revealable, and what they think it's more, if they review, it's going to generate a lot of questions they're not prepared to answer. So they prefer not to review before they investigate better. But again, that's my opinion. I really don't know the inner works of NASA. Mm-hmm. Anyone else here on this subject? Because we're moving to a completely different one now. Spirit perception, sensations, and suffering of spirits. We're going to talk about what spirits, how and the spirits feel. So I gave a lecture on this, on the sensations of the perispirit, right? If you remember, organs on the perispirit. I spoke about this. So we're going to revisit some of the things, and we are going to bring back some of the concepts, because it's, again, sensations and perceptions in spirit, it's not an easy subject for us to fully understand and wrap our head around it. I know I talked a lot with Luis about it, and we discussed a lot, and we continue doing our research and trying to understand better how all this works. But I think we have moved forward a lot, so we'll discuss a little bit. Okay. Go ahead, Philip.
37. When it returns to the spirit world, does the soul still possess the perceptions it had in its lifetime? Yes, and others that it did not possess because its body obscured them. Intelligence is an attribute of the spirit, but it is manifested more freely when unhindered.
Okay, so the first thing is when we leave our physical body and go back to the spiritual world with our perispirit, we really don't change. So everything that, as the spirits say here, intelligence is an attribute of the spirit. And actually, Luis gave a very good lecture yesterday about intelligence, and I asked him to present it to us here. So I hope that he will do it soon. But intelligence is an attribute of the spirit. So the death of the physical body and the death of our brain doesn't change anything in our intelligence. The perceptions and sensations that we carry with us to the spiritual world at first are the same that we have with the physical world. And that's why you see a lot of spirits that refuse to accept that they are dead, because they continue feeling the same thing that they were feeling when they were alive, same pains, the same doubts, the same everything. So they understand that something happened to them, and if they don't understand the process of discarnation and how we end up in the physical world, that's why, you know, a lot of times they will end up there without accepting the reality that they have left the physical body, because they really continue to feel everything they were feeling before. So that's, you know, so we keep all the perceptions, sensations, and in the beginning the sufferings, the physical sufferings that we had. So let's say you die after a long disease, that you had a lot of pain. The pain is not going to disappear immediately. It takes a little while for you to realize that you no longer need to feel the pain and the treatment that you receive in the spiritual world. And if you want to go back and understand better, you can look at André Luiz in Nosso in the beginning, when he went to the hospital and was treated in the hospital for the causes of the death of his physical body, which was the cancer in his stomach, if I remember correctly. Okay.
238.
Yeah.
Do spirits have unlimited perceptions and knowledge? Basically, do they know everything? The closer they approach perfection, the more they know. Higher order spirits have a wide range of knowledge, while those of the lower orders are more or less unaware with respect to everything.
Okay. So here, when we talk about the evolution of the spirits, our spiritual evolution, we discussed this. The closer we get to being a perfect spirit, the more we will know, morally and intellectually evolved. High order spirits have a wide range of knowledge. On the opposite side, those of lower orders are more or less unaware with respect to everything. So it's not because you go back to the spiritual world that you suddenly acquire a trove of knowledge. You don't. You know basically the same thing you knew before you discarnated. And, you know, depending on how open you are to accept the new realities of the spiritual world, you can receive a lot of knowledge in a very short period of time, because you are open to absorb all this new reality But if you are close to accept the new reality, you're basically the same. You don't change anything. So you are unaware in respect to everything. That's what the Spirit tells us here. Okay. Anything here? Oh, okay. Let's move on.
239. Do spirits understand the first principle of things? That depends on their degree of elevation and purity. Low order spirits know no more than people.
Okay, so again, same thing, continuation of the same thing. Depends on the degree of elevation and purity to understand as you get closer to God, you understand more and more about the creation and the origin of things. But and as they said, the low order spirits know no more than humans, not people, that incarnated humans. Well, that's what the spirits were trying to say here. That low order spirits, which is spirits that live the physical world without any knowledge, do not acquire any knowledge. It's reinforcing the same that we have discussed. Okay. Now we start with concepts more complex. The concept of time, which is another interesting one. Go ahead, Philip.
240. Do spirits perceive time in the same manner as we do? No. And this is why you do not always understand us when you are trying to establish dates and time periods. A spirit's life is outside the realm of time as we perceive it. The idea of time is lost on them, and centuries, which seem so long to us, appear to be only a few instants lapsing into eternity for them, just as the variations of the ground would fade and disappear to someone high in space.
Okay. I was reading this, I was thinking, the time Kardec wrote this, we couldn't go much high in space. I think they had balloons, and that was basically it, right?
Yep.
So I was thinking, where did Kardec got this from? The concept of time is a very complex one, right? Because it's a creation that we use to control our life on Earth. Of course, spirits that are around Earth use the same concept of time as we do here. They have days and nights, and they have the same concepts, but the perception of it's different. Okay, and again, the closest we can explain this is the comparison when you are struggling, when you are suffering. Time takes longer to pass than when you are having fun or doing something that you like. Time flies, as they say, right? So you expand this to a lack of physical needs, and you put this in the spiritual world, and you understand how a spirit that is working in the spiritual world, doing something that they really enjoy doing, it's second nature to them. Time will fly, and they won't notice what is time going by. That explains how the governor of Nosular has been working incessantly for 200 years. Now, on the other side, when you are with a fixed idea and you cannot think about anything else, that's when you can become an ovoid. You lose the notion of time also, because you can only think about one thing. Again, we're talking about spirits in the spiritual world. And that, sometimes centuries go by and you are still stuck in that mono idea that you are carrying for a very long time. And we see spirits that sometimes we have dialogues in our mediumship meetings, talking about talking about persecuting, and they have no idea for how long. Their present is where they were when they started this obsessive process. And we see this in the books of André Luiz, also in the books of the talk about obsession. So we have to think of the concept of time as relative. It's not completely absent in the spiritual world, because spirits that are there, that follow us closely, will have the same concept of time that we have here, because they've been following us. But they can lose track of time according to what they are doing there in the spiritual world, for different reasons. Okay, it's a kind of a complex idea, but that's the basics of time in the spiritual world. I don't know if anyone has any additional comments, questions here.
I just want to say that, not a while ago, we said, remember, I'm now in page 114. It says, what is the duration of a corporeal life in comparison to eternity? So we're talking about life expectancy, 78, 80 years old? 80 years old. Okay, less than a minute, less than a second. I don't know, I know that line.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I know you like the line, and it's exactly that, Paco. It's exactly that. When you are in the spiritual world, let's say you spend 300 years in the spiritual world with a fixed idea of persecuting someone and causing harm to someone. 300 years is nothing in comparison to eternity. It's just the process of evolution. It's just that because we are fixed on our idea of time on this incarnation, and sometimes we struggle to see to make time goes by on our difficult parts of our lives. It may be a little bit complicated to get this notion that time in the spiritual world is relative.
I sometimes wonder if this is, I'm thinking out loud, don't quote me. I'm thinking whether time is a parameter what we need in this dimension because of involvement. So we just need it because of our involvement. At a point in time, we may not even need that. I don't know.
I imagine, I imagine that as we evolve, get closer to perfection, I don't know if we won't need it, but our concept of time is going to change completely.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
241. Do spirits have a more genuine and precise view of the present than us? Compared to yours, their view is what sight is in comparison to blindness. They see what you do not see and therefore judge differently than you do. However, we must remind you that this depends on their degree of elevation.
Yeah, so the question here is, when the spirits look at what we're living, the present, do they have a more precise view? It's not a more genuine and precise, it's more ample view, right? Because they don't have the restrictions of the physical body. But again, it's according to their degree of evolution. They will judge differently because they can see more, but it doesn't mean that they are going to have a more genuine view or a more truthful view of the present. They will have a different view, a more ample view, because of the lack of restrictions of the physical body. But doesn't mean that they are going to be more understanding of the present. It's just a different way of seeing it for a less restricted way of seeing it. Okay. Go ahead.
242. How do spirits acquire knowledge of the past? And is this knowledge unlimited? The past, when we focus on it, is perceived as though it were the present, just like when you recall something over the course of your exile. The main difference is that we remember things that are currently erased from your memory. As the material shroud shielding your intelligence no longer obscures our view, however, spirits do not know everything. For example, they know nothing of their creation.
Okay, so this is another thing that we discuss a lot, right? The remembrance of the past. And we explained here several times that when we go back to the physical, to the spiritual world, what we will remember is our immediate previous incarnation. We will fully remember our incarnation that we just left. Anything beyond that is on a need-to-know basis at our stage of evolution. And the reason for that, again, is the same reason why we don't remember when we incarnate, we don't remember our previous existences. Because as we are on an evolutionary path, we are always progressing, we are not prepared to deal with a lot of things that we have done in previous existences. We can barely deal with the things we have done in this existence. We sometimes would rather forget some of the mistakes we made in this present existence. So if you start adding everything together, what is going to happen is that we are going to go crazy. We are going to lose control of our minds. So you go back to the spiritual world, and you need to address some issues that prevent you from moving forward, that happened in previous existences. You are going to remember. If you, let's say, on the positive side, let's say your mother on an incarnation previous to this one is a spirit that you are so connected, that you are so in dearly connections, let's say, and then she is there waiting for you in the spiritual world. You go back there and you see the spirit, and you are going to remember that she was your mother in a previous incarnation. Maybe not with all the details, but that will happen because it's for your own benefit, because you will take advantage of this spirit that is there to help you, and it helps you remember these things. So it can help us. We can remember parts of our previous existences depending on our needs, positive or negative, to overcome some traumas, like we do past life regression here in this world, right? That Spirit tells us that to do past life regression, to overcome traumas, is the only valid use of this mechanism of remembering previous existences, because if we are doing it for vanity, we are risking ourselves. So we will remember the past according to our needs. And again, I know that everybody is always curious. We want to see what we were, but I can assure you that it's better for us not to remember if that's more convenient to our evolutionary path. Just look at you in the mirror and think of you, a worse version of you, and think if you want to remember that. Okay.
243.
Questions?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Do spirits see the future? That also depends on their degree of perfection. They often can partially see it, but even when they see it more clearly, they are not always permitted to reveal it. When they see it, it seems like the present to them. A spirit sees the future more clearly as it approaches God. After death, the soul sees and embraces at a glance its past immigrations, but it cannot see what God has in store for it. This foresight is only possessed by a soul who has attained a complete union with God after a long series of lives. A. Do spirits who have arrived at absolute perfection possess full knowledge of the future? Full is not the word, because God alone is the supreme being, and nothing or no one can be equal to God.
Okay, another complex subject here, seeing the future, right? Every time we talk about seeing the future, we have to remember that we have our free will. So with our free will, we can always change the future. So, of course, as the spirits become more evolved, they have a better understanding of the evolutionary process of spirits. So they can predict the future based on knowledge and the past, but they cannot guarantee the future is going to happen in that way. So that's important concept on how to see the future, right? It's all, we go back to the, to the mountain. You are on the top of it. You see a car going up. You see a hole, and you predict the future. The car is going to fall into a hole. Many things can happen with the car before it reaches the hole. A flat tire, driver that changed their mind and decides to drive back. So there is free will involved. But you are predicting a future that is very possible to happen if nothing changes. So you expand this notion to a more evolved spirit that has the ability to see millions and millions of aspects of the evolution of spirits, of worlds and things like that. And they know with a high degree of certainty what is going to happen, but with a understanding that the future is not written in stone. When we, on the book Planetary Transition that we're studying a group there, another group, they built a spiritual colony on the top of on the place that the tsunami was going to happen, in preparation for the tsunami, in preparation for the accident. 1 month before the tsunami, they were already preparing the spiritual world to receive all those spirits that were going to discarnate during the tsunami. So isn't this predicting the future? Mm-hmm. It is, right? They know what was going to happen. Again, could they say everyone that was going to discarnate? No, they could not, because at last moment, someone that was supposed to be there decides to be in another place and is not affected. So things change, but the big event, they had already predicted that it was going to happen, and they were already preparing for it. So the spiritual world is always prepared for what is going to happen in the big events. When we talk about this pandemic we're going through, and I mentioned this on my Sunday study of virtual mediumship meetings, right? That the spiritual world, of course, they knew that the pandemic was coming. They knew what was going to happen. What they cannot predict is how human beings are going to behave and how they're going to face it. So we are developing, progressing, developing things, developing ways of minimizing the pandemic, but there are always those that are going to go outside the safe measures and expose themselves to risk. So the spirits can predict a future in broader terms, but not the specifics that depends on the free will of each one of us. Okay? Danny. You're on mute.
This is different when they are planning reincarnations. For example, at the book, now we are at the moment when they are planning like 30 years ahead. So they are planning the next reincarnations, spirits that are coming back, that are suffering, etc. So this is different, like, because they are predicting that those spirits are going to meet again, get married, have kids, or, you know, it's different or the same.
Again, it's when you're preparing a reincarnation, you are making plans for what the spirits are supposed to go through. But again, there's no guarantee, right? They're planning to come, they're planning to get married, they're planning to do this and that, but things happen, right? And something may happen that prevents them from meeting, or one of them changes their mind when they're here. We come here and we decide our own path, right? So again, based on millions and millions of similar cases, they know with almost certainty that that's the most likely scenario, but they cannot guarantee the scenario. They can send the spirits on a new reincarnation on the time is needed, because there is always ways of the spirit reincarnating, right? There are several pregnancies every day, right? So if one way doesn't work, you can go another way. So they can move around plans, but they cannot guarantee that these things are going to happen in any specific incarnation, because they will go against our free will.
So then, so the plan could not materialize, like it could not happen. So that
it may not happen. It may not happen. Yes.
So that spirit could be reincarnated with other parents in another place, or even not even reincarnate at that period of time. So that could happen because of the free will, but it's not what it says here, like seeing the future, right? It's different. Or like the example you gave from the pandemic is different than planning reincarnations. Yes. and
yeah.
People.
Yeah, no, here we are talking about future in more generic terms, not in specific individuals.
And is this also different than incarnated spirits that have psychic abilities? Is there a connection?
No, it's different. Spirits that have the psychic ability to see the future, again, without guarantee that is going to happen, this is a psychic ability that the spirit has. So here we're talking about spirits in the spiritual world that are able to see the future in a more broad term, in generic term, right? So it's not that spirit there look at his former kids here on earth and can see what the future is going to happen for their kids that they left behind. That it's not that specific. They can't. It's more in generic terms that we're talking here. So, you know, like let's say the big climatic events on Earth, this a tsunami, a hurricane, they have the ability to foresee what's going to happen, but the specific consequences they cannot. So let's say a hurricane is going to hit the coast. They know that there will be a number of victims, but not the exact number of victims or who's going to be the victim. but they are going to prepare to receive a number of victims that are going to go back to the spiritual world. If it's 1,000 or 5,000, they'll be prepared anyway. That's the prediction of the future that they are preparing themselves for. Like when in Solar, when they were preparing for the Second World War, they knew that there will be many spirits going back to the spiritual world, traumatized by dying in a war, right? So the preparations were for the type of assistance for this type of spirits that will be traumatized by the sudden discarnation, violent discarnation in a war. Okay. Okay, any other comments? We have 3 minutes, so I'm going to stop here before we ask the questions if spirits see God. Renata.
Just following on what Daniela is saying. So yeah, in the book that we're reading, so one of the characters is not improving in the spiritual world, so he's going to be part of like coming back and reincarnating and being, you know, the son to one of the people that he hated and he's been in debt with. Why can't more of that happens? Meaning like, I started reading the book like No Rumo ao Mundo de Regeneração. And I
just published in English.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So we can put it in the book club. Hey, Donnie, there we go.
What's the name of it?
What is the
on
title?
the path of the world of regeneration, or on the way of the world of regeneration. I already ordered, and we should have it here
Oh my God,
any day
it's
now.
so good.
Yeah,
it's really good, but you get a little like, it's not shocked, but it's a little like você fica pouco impressionada, né? I don't know, a little like
it's a little bit of a
it's a little
traumatic in a sense.
Yes. So, and you see like, I'm not gonna spoil here, but you see like, you see all those spirits that are trying to really stop us from progressing, right? Why can like, you know, the good spirits interrupt that and say, no, we're gonna stop this right now, and then we're gonna pull you and put you to go to another planet now before this, you know, like just like in the book that we're reading, like, no, Tulio, stop it. No, this is enough. You know, now you're gonna reincarnate and be his son, you know? So why isn't that a little more? I know that we have free will, we have to all evolve, blah, 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 but can it be a little more intervention to help?
Interferes with the free will, Renata. That's the problem,
but
right?
the free will,
Because
to a certain extent.
we have to do our part. We cannot allow those spirits to connect to us. If we open our doors for them to come to enter our houses, it's our responsibility, and that's the issue that we are always dealing with. You know, we want the spiritual world to eliminate those inconvenient spirits.
Oh, you're right.
And we don't want to do our part.
I know, and then we're just gonna attract them again, right? Because it's not. You're right. You know, yeah.
It has to be. They are there to help us and to assist us. And again, every week in the mediumship meeting, we're talking about the spirits try to direct there to better places, but we have to do our part. If we don't do our part, we are open.
Oh, we are so open. Yeah, it's all in your head. It's all mental. It's all thought. So yeah, you're right. It's like every day we have to be so vigilant, because one little space, here they come.
Exactly.
We have to be careful sometimes when intervention is a disguise for control.
Very good, Paco.
Yes,
exactly that.
Yeah, you're right. It's just like that sometimes would be so much easier.
Yeah, if others could do the job for us, it would be much easier.
Oh, yes, right? yes.
Fortunately, that's not how it works. Because if others do the job for us, we don't learn anything.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Yes,
that's how sometimes the world operates. Yeah, controlling and doing for others, you know.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm glad that you published it in English. That's good. That's a great book.
It is, yeah. Okay, so we finally arrive at our friend Luis' lecture on Saturday, right? So I'm sure you are not going to miss it, right? So this Saturday, 11 a.m., Spiritist Philosophy and Science, our friend Luis Vilassa that is here. Bring your questions, bring your comments. This Saturday, 11 a.m. Okay, we're going to ask for, we're going to pass a list of presents. If you don't watch the lecture, you are not going to be allowed to participate. Here, I'm joking. But if you cannot watch live, remember that it's always on our YouTube page, and you can catch later. Okay.
That's from 11 to 12.
Sorry?
The conference is from 11 to 12?
11 to 12, 15, 12:30. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not on our regular SGNY. Remember, it's the United States Spiritist Federation, YouTube and Facebook pages, or the International Spiritist Council, Say TV, with TV Say, which is the YouTube of the International Spiritist Council, right? So the book club next Wednesday, will be chapters 23 and 24. Daniela is advising us. And this Sunday is the first Sunday of the month. So the book that we are going to study is Liberation, and we are going to discuss chapter 5, Selective Procedure. Remember, they just met Gregorio in the lower zones. Now they're going to start dealing with Gregorio. So it's an interesting part.
Johnny.
Liberation. Yes.
If you
Luis.
allow me
Yes.
recommendation with a lighter touch, if you guys have a chance to watch it, I believe you will enjoy, because I did a lot of research, and you probably find, new and interesting things on philosophy and science and how they relate to the Spiritist science. So maybe it will be interesting. You'll see a lot of things that you know, but maybe a couple of new things. Okay, so if you have a chance, please come and watch it.
And I watched the Portuguese version of it, and I guarantee you it's really, really good. Okay, so we'll see you on Saturday. Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Sure. Thank you, John, and everyone. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we are grateful to be together this evening for our study of the Spirit's book, the topic being Transitional Worlds. We are grateful for what we have learned this evening in our study, those things that we have shared, those things that we have gleaned. We are truly grateful to our spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, the mentors of SGNY, who are with us, guiding us, inspiring us, and helping us to receive these teachings in a very open and new way. We are grateful for all that we have received this evening, and may we use this information and this wisdom in a beneficial way, sharing with others as they are able to receive. We are grateful for the spiritual benefactors helping us each and every day, and we give thanks. We are truly grateful for all their assistance and the blessings given to us on all levels. May we continue throughout the week with our prayers, with our studies, with our mindfulness, making sure that we keep our thoughts elevated and our hearts open. May we be of service, and may we make sure that we do bits of charity each day, which is love in action. We humbly close now and ask for the love, light, and peace of Christ to be with us. And may we go forth in safety and protection to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. We are truly blessed. We give thanks, and we close this portion of the meeting now and remind ourselves to be beacons of light. Go forth now in peace, so be it.